Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday with Josh and Sarah. Today we're focusing on pelvic tilts. So we're just going to go through some quick stretches for anterior and posterior pelvic tilts. There's a lot of good exercises too that we'll probably get into the next time that we focus on pelvic tilts with the foam roller as well too, and do some little movements and stuff with that. So today it's just going to be real quick, some simple stretches and just focusing on, the areas that are going to be lengthened and shortened and opening up those areas that are either lengthened or shortened and just going from there. So for most of us, like Josh was saying in the previous video, or if you watched that, a lot of us have an anterior pelvic tilt. So what that does, it's going to tighten our hip flexors in the front, our quads, everything's going to be super lengthened in the back, and in turn kind of hinders, that kind of little curve that you get for your glutes and your hamstrings, because everything just starts to run together because it's over lengthened. So it would be the complete opposite for a posterior pelvic tilt. Everything's squinched down here, where the hamstrings need to be lengthened and the quads in the front are over lengthened, and everything in the rib cage all the way up to the shoulders, everything starts to conform, from your pelvic tilt, or vice versa. Sometimes it starts from up in our shoulders first, sometimes it starts in our hips first. So it just depends. But however, if the longer you go without fixing something that's misaligned in your body, the more that the rest of your body starts to have a trickle effect to it too. So like I said, for us, some of it starts with our shoulders, some of us, it starts with our hips, and then our body just has an effect from there. So for me, I have pretty much an anterior pelvic tilt. So a lot of dancing, lots of turned out, lots of quad domination in my exercises, and for years of dancing, everything was quad dominant. Not a lot of focus on the glutes and hamstrings, except for jumping and leaps and over lengthening those hamstrings to get, your foot all the way past your head kind of thing. So we'll start with like an anterior pelvic tilt stretches, and then we'll go to posterior pelvic tilt, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So we're going to start with opening up our hip flexors. It's just going to be a simple lunge stretch. A lot of these exercises or stretches you've seen me do before, but we'll do this in this sequence where you're focusing on, opening up your hip flexors or opening up your glutes in that area. So key is, when you are doing anything with your hips, is to keep them aligned. I'll say this over and over: keep them aligned, keep them nice and squared off. Try not to let one hip, come out of alignment versus the other one. So just to start in a simple lunge, you can have something in front of you to hold onto if you need to. We'll start with the right foot up first. Like I said, you can have something to hold on to. You can just hold yourself, keeping the knees in line with the hips, knees in line with the ankles here. And then you're just going to take a nice little scrunch down with your glutes here. So again, we're not here. We're trying to do the opposite of an anterior pelvic tilt, really pushing those hips down, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs here too, but not rolling the shoulders forward. And then we're just going to take a nice little stretch forward, so leaning into that right leg. So you'll feel a nice stretch in the hip flexors in the front, feel a nice little squeeze in the glutes. You'll also feel a nice stretch in your hamstrings on the right leg as well. Go only as far as you can while keeping your glutes squeezed and your abs nice and squeezed as well. Don't go too far, because otherwise you'll lose your form, you'll lose your alignment, and you'll lose sometimes balance too. So relax into it, and then we'll go right back into it again. So just opening up the hip flexors here. If you need more of a stretch, you can tuck those toes under, put your hands down, and then just lift that back leg. But for me, I'm just going to focus on staying in the lunge position here. And relax. We'll do this one more time. If you need to adjust yourself again, making sure your hips are nice and square, facing forward, tucking the glutes under, not keeping them sticking out. This is what we don't want. So tucking this under here, opening this up. So relaxing in the front of your hip flexor and squeezing the glutes in the back, and then taking a lunge forward. Big deep breaths always. Try and go a little bit further each time you stretch. And relax. Good. Go to the other side. So left foot comes up. Right leg is back here, so keeping the hips aligned with the knees in line with your ankles. Tucking your glutes under, squeezing your glutes. You can feel which side's tighter on each side. This side's definitely tighter for me, so tucking this under, I definitely feel just a stretch right here. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes just standing here in this position and squeezing your glutes and feeling this open in the front, sometimes that's really all you need. You don't have to go too far into it just to get a good stretch. Simple movement sometimes is the best movement. So I'm going to squeeze here. I'm going to slightly lunge forward just a little bit. Like I said, this side is a lot tighter than my left side, so it doesn't want to let me go too far forward without losing my hip alignment here. So I'm just going to stay here. And again, if you need to go forward some more, please do. But keeping the glutes squeezed, keeping the abs nice and squeezed, and then relaxing the front of your hips is what's key here. Again, if you need more of a stretch, you can tuck that foot under and extend the back leg. If you need something under your knee as well, you can. Just a little bit more padding. And relax. We'll go into it again. Tucking the glutes under, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs, and then lunging forward. Big deep breaths. And relax. Good. One more time. So adjust here, tuck under here, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs, relaxing the hip flexors, and take a lunge forward. And relax. Big deep breath. Good. Okay, let's go to the floor. So this one, we're going to focus on just stretching the hips, opening those up. You've seen me do this one before, crossing over that foot, taking the right foot, crossing the ankle over the knee. Again, keeping those hips nice and aligned through here. You don't want to have them cockeyed this way. You don't want to have one higher than the other. You want to try and keep them straight. So pushing that knee towards away from you, and then bringing your left knee up and grabbing underneath. And we're just going to hold here. Again, trying to keep those hips nice and square. Keeping the abs nice and tight. Big deep breath. And pull a little bit closer to you. And relax. Other side. Left leg comes up over the right knee. Keeping the hips nice and aligned. Pushing that knee away from you, your left knee, and then bringing that right knee closer to you. And we're holding here. Make sure you're breathing. try and pull it closer to you with each breath. And relax. Good. While we're here, we're going to stretch the hamstrings. So again, if your hamstrings are super tight from a posterior tilt, it's not really lengthening and opening it. Anterior tilts, you have an over lengthened hamstrings most of the time. And so this one, you can always stretch your hamstrings. It's always a good thing to stretch your hamstrings, but specifically if you have a posterior pelvic tilt, this will be great because it'll open up your hamstrings and allow you to stand more neutral and above your glutes rather than tucking your glutes under you and keeping the weight all in the front of your quads. So we're just going to lift the right leg up, relaxing the foot, try and keeping the legs straight this time so that you can get a nice stretch all the way from your glutes all the way to the bottom of your feet if you flex your foot, but it'll go all the way to the bottom of your calves. You can grab, you can hold, wherever is comfortable for you, but key here is to relax into it and keep the knee straight as much as you can. You can roll your foot around, but really try and feel that stretch in the hamstring here. And relax. Other side. We'll go back to the other side. Left leg is up. Make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're not pulling the hips off the floor, keeping both hips on the floor and getting a nice stretch in that hamstring. Circling the foot around. Good. Relax. Other side. Right leg up again. This time we're going to flex that foot, so pulling those toes towards you as much as you can. You can grab the toes if you can reach. If not, just really try and focus on pulling those toes towards you. Trying to keep that knee straight as well. Make sure you're breathing. And relax. Other side. Left leg up. Flexing those toes towards you. Hands on your toes if you can. If not, you can grab your knee. You can grab your thigh and pull it towards you. And holding here. And relax. Good. Now we're going to do both legs up. So anytime that I ever have back problems, not problems, but anytime that my back would flare up and from inflammation, from something I did wrong in a workout, I would either put my feet up straight on the wall. So your feet would, this would be flat up against the wall, or at a 90-degree angle. You can use your bed, you can use a bench, something that hits your knees to be 90 degrees. So, but we're going to do it without the wall and the bench today. So we're just going to lift both legs up, really focusing on keeping, so you don't want your butt to come off the ground. You want it to stay on the ground. We're going to flex those toes, keeping the hips nice and aligned here. Good. And then small movements without letting your butt lift up off the ground. So if you need to put your hands here, you can. You're just going to keep those toes flexed, and you're just going to slightly move them towards you, and then relax. And then bring it towards you again, and relax. So to keep my glutes down on the ground, I'm really having to squeeze my abs. So engaging those abs will help keeping your hips in alignment too, so that you're getting a nice stretch in that low back and also in those hamstrings here. And relax. We'll do this a couple times here, flexing those toes and slightly moving towards you. And relax. Do 2 more times here. If you need to bend the knees slightly, you can. And relax. One more time. And relax. Good. Knees down, shake it out. We're going to go over, flip over on our stomach. We're going to stretch the front of our body this way. So we can start real small with this one as well. Some of us, it might pinch the low back. But again, that's where you engaging the glutes and engaging your abs will help. So we'll start with our feet together. Toes are flat on the ground. Hands are just underneath your shoulders. I won't go into whatever position this is called in yoga, but if you are familiar with yoga, that's kind of where I'm going with this. But toes are here. This is going to be for a stretch. This is not a low back exercise or anything. This is going to be a hip flexor stretch. So we're squeezing the glutes. So you're going to tuck your glutes under you into the mat. So you're really pushing your hip flexors into the floor below you. Hands are underneath your shoulders, and then you're just going to lift. So squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs. You're just going to lift up as much as you can until you feel a nice stretch on your hip flexors and on your abs as well. Relaxing the shoulders back. And if you feel you need more of a challenge, you can lift that head up towards the ceiling. Keeping those shoulders down. Try not to let your shoulders raise into your ears. You want them down and relaxed away from you. So my feet are coming apart. But I'm going to try and keep them together. So squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs, relaxing the shoulders down. Big deep breaths. One more big deep breath. And relax it back down. Okay, so we're going to spread the feet out this time. We're going to curl those toes under. So feet are going to come just a little bit further than your hips. Tucking the toes under. You can keep the knees bent or you can straighten them out, whatever you feel comfortable for your stretch or where you need to feel the stretch. So same thing, squeezing the glutes. We're still tucking those hips under, pushing our hip flexors into the ground and lifting our head and chest up towards the ceiling, relaxing the shoulders down. Big deep breaths. Okay, so if you need to extend the knees up like so, you will feel more of a stretch in your hip flexors. But for me, I'm going to keep them down. I'm going to keep my toes curled under. I'm going to relax my shoulders. I'm going to squeeze my glutes. And I'm going to lift. Take big deep breaths. And relax back down. Oh, good. While we're here, we're going to stretch those quads. Again, anterior pelvic tilt, your quads are going to be scrunched a little bit. And they're also going to take on a lot of weight because of how far we lean forward. So you're just going to bend. We'll start with our right, bending your right leg at the knee, grabbing the top of your foot and just pulling it towards your glutes. If you need more of a stretch, you're going to do the same thing that we did before. You're going to tuck those glutes under you, squeezing the glutes, and you will feel definitely more of a stretch in your hip flexors and in your quads. So you can either relax into it and feel a stretch there, or you can squeeze the glutes, tucking the glutes under, squeezing the abs as well and pulling the foot closer towards you, and you will feel more of a stretch. We're just going to hang out here for a few breaths. And relax. Other side. Grab the top of your foot. Again, pushing those hip flexors into the ground, squeezing the glutes, and pulling the foot towards you. And we'll hang out here for a few deep breaths. And relax. Good. Curling the toes under, lifting up on your knees. So this is just going to be a quick articulation of our hip flexors and our spine. Many of you have probably done this in certain exercise classes. You should probably do this on your own maybe, but it's a great one to articulate the hips and the spine and go through the movements of, you know, your hips, where they need to be, where your neutral position is, where feel it in your abs and your glutes, that sort of thing. So hands are going to be straight underneath your shoulders. Knees are right underneath your hips. And your hips, your knees and your hands are going to be about shoulder width apart. Toes are nice and flat on the ground. Try not to keep them together or too apart. You want to try and keep them right in alignment with your knees. So here is neutral for me, right? So not tucked, not arched, but here. So for me to get into a neutral, I really need to engage my abs to keep it there. So that will tell me too, standing, that my abs need to be engaged in order to keep my spine and my hips in a neutral position. So I'm going to relax my abs and I'm going to extend my lower back and my glutes up towards the ceiling. The same with my head. Everything is going to almost try and fold in half towards the ceiling. So my tailbone is stretching that way, my head is stretching this way. So essentially you're trying to fold your body in half. And we're just going to come here, lifting the head and chest, relaxing the shoulders down, feeling a nice stretch in your abs. Holding here for a breath. And on the exhale, we're going to curl and tuck everything in half the other way. So now we're going to engage the abs and we're engaging the glutes and we're tucking the chin to your chest. Feeling a nice stretch in your low back, all the way through your back actually. Keeping the glutes squeezed, keeping the abs nice and engaged. We're going to hold here for a few deep breaths. And relax. We'll do these one more time. So relaxing the abs, lifting the head and chest towards the ceiling, lifting the tailbone towards the ceiling as well. Relaxing the shoulders down. They're not in your ears. They're not hunched like this. Relaxing them down. Slight engagement in the shoulders, I guess. A few deep breaths. And on your next exhale, folding the body in half, tucking the glutes up under you, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abs, chin to your chest, and hold here. And relax. Come back to your neutral. Whew. See if I can get my neutral just fine. Cool. Okay. Yep. I think that's all we have time for today. That was just a quick articulation with your hips, and then also stretching your hip flexors, which is a big key for a lot of us too, because whether we sit, whether we stand, whether we, work at a desk all day, driving in a car all day, this area gets pinched a lot and it gets shortened a lot while our hamstrings get over lengthened usually. So just be mindful, keeping the shoulders tucked back, keeping your body weight on top of your glutes, not forward. And doing simple stretches like that throughout the day will help keep everything open and aligned and neutral. So for me, I have to be aware of my glutes and my abs. So keeping my abs engaged throughout the day to keep my glutes tucked under while engaging my glutes to stay in a neutral position too. So little exercises like that will also help get you body aware of how it feels to have your abs engaged and your glutes engaged while you're trying to keep a neutral position and keep everything aligned. Same thing when you're working out. Keeping the body in alignment while you're working out is a big key because it will target your body properly and it will target your whole entire chain of command with your muscles and with superficial lines. Same with your stretching too. So keeping the body in alignment all throughout the day with anything that you do, it'll get easier the more you think about it, the more you do it, and it won't be such a tedious thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed today in this simple stretches, and we'll continue the pelvic tilt series, and we hope to see you next time.